Hey there, good afternoon. We want to welcome you to When Passion Meets Purpose. We really believe that God has put something down on the inside of you, your passion, and it's designed to intersect with your God-given purpose. Oh my goodness, here we believe that anything is possible because we lift up the mighty name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And the word tells us that with God, all things are possible. Well, I'm so glad that I'm not here alone today. I want to bring on my friend, our guest today, in the person of Angela Hope. Minister Angela Hope, unmute yourself and just join us in this conversation. That's what it's about today.
Yes. I am all grins and skin this
Me too.
afternoon.
Yes.
It's been a long time that we've been trying to connect with each other over
Yeah.
the past year and a half or so. And it's so good to be here with you today, Pastor Leslie. And I seriously mean that. It's so good to be here with you this afternoon.
Well, it is so good to have you here. And I want people to just know all that you offer. Listen, I call her the multifaceted Minister Angela Hope, and you're going to find out what that means. What do I mean by that? Because this woman is doing so many things by the grace of God. And I want to give you all a chance to tag somebody and to share so that they'll know that we're on and we're live. We know that a lot of people prefer Angela to get this on the replay, and that's fine too. But we certainly appreciate those who do join us live. It's just great because we want you all to join in the conversation. Others will be on board, we trust. But in the meantime, we want to thank you, in the person of, who is this, Dr. Juanita Corey Jackson? Apostle, doctor?
Well, yes.
You.
You just added doctor to her name. I'm sure
She's
like, oh, Lord, wait a minute.
Let's just say it. And welcome, Pepper Moss. So we're just glad that you all are here with us. Please join the conversation. Anytime that we're going forward, we want you to just feel free. Put there in the chat any questions that you have, any comments that you have, even as we have this conversation. That's just the way we do it. We just sit here and we talk like sisters, okay? And so let's do that. So make sure you're tagging somebody right now. Make sure you're pushing this to your own pages right now so that people know that we are live, all right? I'm just so grateful, as I said, to have Angela with me because she does something online. And this is a thing. It's just intrigued me when I was invited to your platform because of this thing that you do with the virtual marketplace. And it's just wonderful. That feel that's much like QVC, right? Or we can come to your platform and that type of thing is happening. You open yourself up to assist and pour into small business owners. You showcase what it is that they bring to the table. So many amazing products. You give them an opportunity to share their services with the community. Thank you for doing that, because I remember you allowed me on your platform to even share about my most recent book. You didn't have to do that because you're an author yourself. So what a gift you are to the body of Christ. And thank you for inspiring us. You inspire us, those who are speakers and leaders and ministers, and you also admonish us around self-care. So all of this is so important. It's so important. Desiree, I'm glad that you're here. I so wish that I could watch the live. Okay. All right. I got it. Angela and I were just talking about this before we came on, but so many people are in other different things right now. We realize that. But to you who are catching it on the replay, thank you. Somebody's saying they wish they could watch it live, but they're in a summit at their own church. But thank you for chiming in. All right. Angela. My friend, give me a chance to speak. I'm just going on and on.
No, I love it. No, this feels so good.
Yeah.
This feels so good to not be on my platform where I have to do all the talking. And it's like, this feels so good to just watch you in action. This is great.
Okay. I know what you mean by that. When you just get to sit back and it's like, okay, I'm not having to do this time. I can be the guest. I got you. I understand.
Absolutely.
It's much like ministry. That's what it is. It's good when you're not the one having to stand behind that sacred desk, but you can be there to push somebody else on. How about that?
And you got the amen corner over here. Yes. Go right and preach, Pastor, preach.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So listen, I know everybody can certainly feel your spirit and connect with your spirit. I want you to tell them a little bit more about who is Angela Hope. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. I said what I had to say about you, but tell us who you are.
Yes. Well, I want to say to the audience, thank you for joining us today. Women in Ministry is an awesome platform that I get an opportunity during the weekday if I'm being distracted a little bit and scrolling. It's like, oh, Pastor Leslie is on, and you always have an awesome word, an awesome guest. So thank you for having me here today. I count it an honor and a privilege to be here, and I absolutely mean that. A little bit about myself. I am a 3-time best-selling Amazon author. And Lord knows, I don't know how that came about, but to God be the glory, and also an international best-selling author as well. And I look forward to just sharing more with you about how that all came about. But I'm, a little girl was born in the early 60s in the Washingtonian area. I am a coal miner's daughter. My father was lived in West Virginia. My mom and my dad lived in West Virginia, and my father was a coal miner. They moved their family to Washington, D.C., and where I was born. I'm the youngest of 5 siblings, and just begin to be raised in the Washington, D.C. area. And then my parents moved to the Maryland area, the Prince George's County area. For those of you all that are on here or who will watch the replay from the DMV area will kind of know a little bit about my stomping grounds. I was born in Northwest Washington, D.C., what they call the Uptown girls or the Uptown people, and Georgetown Hospital. So that's where life began for me. And so was raised in the Prince George's community, community over my many years, and was raised in a church by 2 phenomenal parents that I just absolutely, they broke the mold when after they transitioned on. But I was raised by 2 amazing parents who just taught me about Jesus. They were old school. That's all they know, Pastor, was just Jesus. Now, we can look back and say we missed so much in between that. Because they were Pentecostals, they were Jesus name folks, and everything was Jesus. What you ate was Jesus. What you slept was Jesus. I grew up in a home where, and I'm so appreciative to my foundation because of that. I grew up in the home where I saw the mothers come in on the weekends and fasted and prayed all weekend long. And I witnessed my mother fasting for 30 and 40 days, and yet preparing meals for my father every day, who was a wonderful man of God. I've watched my parents build a house, build the church with their hands, building bricks and cement and all of those things. So I said that to just because sometimes, Pastor Leslie, when people see us now, they don't know, like we all do. We don't know where a person has been or where they come from. And we often say, to know where you're going, you have to sometimes know where you've been, right? So I just want to share a little bit about myself. Fast forwarding, being raised in the Washington, D.C. area, it was very common for you to work in the government or private sector or go to college. We know that Washington, D.C. is a working town. That's where you come to work and you make lots of money. It's a very expensive place. Often people were very shocked to see so many African Americans at the, it used to be called Chocolate City because bad, good, ugly, or indifferent, right? It was known as the Chocolate City because it was a place where you saw so many African Americans flourishing from cars and homes, and that was a norm for me. And So that was life. So fast forwarding, I worked in a private sector in a law firm as a young girl. I
Hmm.
took had a detour in my life, was pregnant at a very early age. Went from the pew to the world, and am I being disobedient? And the enemy was waiting at the front door for me and said, "Welcome and come on in." But prior to that, I loved the Lord as a little girl, and I love singing, and I love this thing called Jesus. I share that in my books. And I love the shouting and clapping and praising the Lord, what I knew as a child.
Yes,
Right? And the just like the enemy, he takes us. He welcomes us in when we're very young.
that's
And
right.
I took a detour in my life from drugs to alcohol to being pregnant at a very early age, from being in a domestic violence relationship where the enemy literally tried to take my life.
Mm.
And the story goes on, because sin is sin. And as we all say, it takes you further than you want to go and keep you longer than you want to stay. But to God be the glory. I stand here today so thankful for my life. Fast forwarding from that, I met a wonderful man as my children were growing, and I was a single parent, took care of my parents, lost my parents
Mm.
over time, and just taking care of them and doing things with my wonderful family, raised my children. I met a wonderful man later on in life, married. We then relocated to Charlotte over time. And that's where the Lord began to work a new work in my life. And we know, Pastor Leslie, there's so much in between that.
So much in
But
between. Yeah.
yes, yes. And I know that there'll be other things that we'll talk about, but that's kind of the root of Angela Hope. And the story goes on and on. And so
Yes.
I'm
What a
here
wonderful
today.
story. I'm
That's
sitting in
just the
Prince
tip of
George's
the
County right
iceberg.
now. I'm sitting in Prince George's County as we speak. Yeah, where you grew up.
Yeah,
I don't know, I don't have any knowledge of ever meeting a coal miner's daughter.
yeah,
So, and I didn't even know that about you. See, I'm learning as we
yeah,
go.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I will say that I can attest to this whole thing about Chocolate City, because when we came here, when we relocated here, we relocated here from the island of Guam, and yet we had been in other places as well. But when we came here and we were enrolling our children in school in DC, right outside in in DC, right outside of Bowling, I asked the people in the office. I said, "Well, what are the demographics around here?" And one of the ladies in the office said, "Honey, welcome to Chocolate City." And then you just said that, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And it was just so true that they had never, been in that type of situation as we have here. And I thought they were so fortunate, because then all of them had, teachers that looked like them and all of that. And they had never really had that. So they had had great teachers up until that point. But I
yeah,
think it was just
yeah,
another layer of them to have, teachers who were of African American descent, and they
yeah,
would come home with some really wild stories.
yeah,
So because they relate to us on a different way, and in a
yeah,
different way, right? I
yeah,
grew up that way. Where I grew up
yeah,
in Kentucky, yeah, we had the black school, the white school, and then they began to integrate. But we all have those wonderful memories and wonderful stories. So
yeah.
let's
I
go
took
back.
you back a little bit,
It took
huh?
me back. As I was listening to you, I was like, wow, wow, so many things I was relating to as you spoke, as maybe somebody here too listening. So Christina says, a wonderful testimony. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
thank
welcome,
you.
Christina, Deaconess Christina, and Evangelist Geraldine. Welcome to you all for getting on board. We are here with this lovely lady, Angela Hope of A Hope and Company, and we're just going to have a candid chat today. That's what we're
Yeah,
doing, like we do on our fifth Saturday. So we're hoping that you all are tagging somebody, reminding them that we're here. We know the information has gone out. She was just sharing a little bit with us about who is Angela Hope, right? So hopefully you got a little peek in to her life. Now, I'm going to share with you that there's something that Angela does on a live platform that I have found really, really interesting because you reach to the marketplace, right? So, people sometimes don't realize that's a ministry as well. We see our lives as ministry, Angela. We've talked about this. You and I, our lives. Listen, when we bring our lives and we give ourselves to the Lord Jesus Christ, we're not compartmentalized anymore. Our life is ministry, right? Not I minister on Sundays, I minister on this day, and then hey, the rest of the time. Now we might have lived that way for a minute, but not when we really give ourselves over to the Lord. So we want to hear a little bit more about what is it that inspired you to create A Hope and Company LLC, right? This is a virtual marketplace, and I've seen you in action with this. And it's so wonderful because you're inspiring people. People come and share what they have, right? And others are able to partake in that because we may purchase their product or whatever it is. So what inspired you to do it? And as you're talking about that, I want you to kind of springboard into, okay, so then what keeps you doing it? Because we know what keeps you showing up. Now we both know how this is, right? Sometimes it doesn't look like it's going the way it should, but what keeps you showing up? So let's start there with the inspiration, and then you just take it forward, okay, as you want.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for asking me. And, we all, most of us, many of us birthed some type of business or platform like this during um, COVID, which will go down in history. And we still continue to live in that residue of what
Mm,
COVID did and how it affected so many of us, from the many loss to now the expenses of gas and food and things like that, and working remotely when companies would have never heard of doing such
right,
thing, where vendors or people who had their own businesses, all they knew was, getting renting a table and going to an event and pulling out that black tablecloth and setting their things up so nicely and being with all the other vendors and lots of foot traffic and having an opportunity to talk to so many people and having a good time. And
right.
then COVID hit, right? And so, what happened to all of these vendors? Well, I got to see this in action where my sister, Joan T. Randall, who she and I are very, very close friends, we met in 2015 at a Speak for Pay event in
Hmm.
Atlanta. We never knew each other. But fast forwarding again, she was hosting maybe her second or third conference. And this conference was going to entail vendors, just as I described,
Mhm.
tables and the foot traffic. The people who would be coming to the vendor to the conference would be able to have a chance to support these black owned businesses or businesses in general. Well, COVID shut everything down, so she was very limited to who could be in the space, who could be in the room. We were wearing masks, we were washing our hands, doing all of that,
Right.
and she had to pivot to a virtual conference out of nowhere. So here she had these vendors who were invested, right? And so she said, no, just show up and come. And they're like, there's going to be no foot traffic. No one's coming to this conference. This is all going to be done virtual. And you want us to come in the hotel lobby and set up tables. So a lot of them were like, this doesn't make sense, but we
We're
invested
gonna go.
invested in this, and
Yeah.
we trust Joan T. Randall, and we're coming. So I was there to support her, one, but to be on a panel. And little did I know that when I walked in the door, her producers and event planners had already had talked about, we'll just ask Angela to interview the vendors out of just nowhere. So I
Mm.
came thinking I'm going to be on a panel to talk about my books and Victorious You Press and all of this, and got thrust pastor into, now here is the marketplace. They created all of her t-shirts and books and everything. It was so beautiful, very elaborate. And we're going to have each vendor come, and you're going to, with a few of their items, and you're just going to interview them. Okay.
Let me stop you for a minute because listen, you all who are watching, I want you to Think about, because this is what I'm hearing, Angela. You were being stretched. You were being stretched. And if you're on here with us right now, do you remember any time that you were stretched? And I believe some of us are in the stretch right now. You see what I'm saying? Because God is always doing something in our lives. And look, we didn't necessarily plan for it, but it's in the plan.
Didn't
All
see
right.
it
We
coming.
didn't plan for it, but it's in the Lord's plan. And so you were being stretched, and thank God you were stretched, because you're still stretching, and you're stretching in a different direction. Come on now. You all start putting something in this chat. Do you have questions? Do you have comments? Let's comment as Angela's going forward, because I'm sure others on here besides myself can identify with this. I mean, you're hitting some good points there, my sister. Okay. It was pulling your gift forward. Yes, 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 yes. I'm going to keep on calling her Dr. Corey Jackson. Yes, Apostle. Yes, Doctor. Yes, pulling it forward. Amen.
Yes.
All right.
And
Keep
can I
going.
just can
I
I
just
can
had to
I
say
just give
something about that.
a praise break here and just thank God for my leader, my covering, Pastor Juanita, Apostle Juanita Corey Jackson. You see that she's here. I have the pleasure of being her executive administrator, and I just thank God for what she's doing in the ministry. And I would just say to your audience, you are never too old. You know, we always say, honey, I've been serving the Lord for 30 or 40 years. There is always so much that we need to learn and we need to know. You see, God will always, and I want to make this point, he will call you away from what you have been identified with or what defines you. You see, years ago, BT defined me, but he will take us away from that to help us walk into our assignment. So as we're talking about this, how I showed up, and how I now have A Hope and Company Virtual Marketplace, and how I met Apostle Juanita Corey. It all has just tied in there. All of it's all in there together, Pastor. Yeah, it's all in there together. And so I just want to give a shout out to her, because the Lord has just blessed me with such an amazing covering. And I'm so thankful for her. And I don't just, it's not out of, oh, it's my duty. My pastor is here and I just want to give her a shout. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. I thank God for her. And I know, Pastor Leslie, that a lot of women that you oversee feel the same way about you. I know they do. I know they do.
Well, we trust. Right? Yeah. But this is and this thing is like this, right? This is a month, October, where we give honor to our leaders. Yes. And so I too have those whom I honor, right? Who have watched over me and who have that watch over my soul. And so we shouldn't be taking that lightly. Something else you mentioned, coming out of being delivered from an intimate partner violence relationship. Domestic violence, as some of us call it. Well, October is also a month for recognizing that and recognizing survivors. But we must remember that there are still many victims. And guess what? Some of those victims are still within the church. They're still within our ranks. So we have to be cognizant of this. So thank you for taking the time to at least point that out, and the importance of recognizing those. That's right.
Yes.
Leadership. So thank you.
Yes. And I love this conversation, because this is just like girlfriends, where we're talking about one thing and then we go to another thing. But I know, right? The audience is capturing it all. So back to the conference in 2019.
All right, let's go back. Sorry.
So I begin to, the producers were there and told me what to do. And I started doing that, and had the opportunity to stand beside the vendor, who they were like, this is crazy, because I'm used to standing behind my table with all my product and saying, this is $1, this is $25, put it in the bag, make your sale on Square. But here I am standing up with this lady I don't know, who's interviewing me and asking me to share a little bit about my stuff, or about my products rather. And so just so your audience know, I do have a little bit background in entertainment, sports entertainment and media. I worked for BET for well over 25 years, throughout the whole company, from an executive assistant to production, to filming, to working on the Bobby Jones Gospel Show, having to be able to, having the opportunity to cover a lot of the gospel artists that we know, the Clark sisters when they were taping. So what you see on BET behind the scenes are people to cover that artists from the green room to their own room, make sure their makeup is done, making sure they're on the set. So I had a little bit of background in that and watching people interview. I've had the pleasure of sitting with Dr. Bobby Jones Gospel in my earlier years while he was editing his show and things like that. So I guess don't dismiss things that we do in the past that will then come to fruition later on in our life. So that skill set that I may have watched many years ago came to the forefront in this particular opportunity. So from there, everybody's like, oh my God, you were great. You were fantastic. This was just like Black QVC, yada, yada, yada. So time passed and I went home and I thought about it and I said, I really enjoyed that. And how do I duplicate that and have the opportunity to interview other business owners? And how do I duplicate that to have the opportunity to share in this virtual market that we've all been thrust in? Because remember, we're all home locked in with the refrigerator full of food now, right? Most of us were. And so that's how virtual marketplace, A Hope and Company virtual marketplace was birthed. Now, A Hope and Company LLC is originally a virtual administrative platform. I'm sorry. Business where I was going to take my executive assistant skill sets and consider supporting C-suite executives who've had their own businesses and things like that. But it ended up parlaying to the marketplace. So that's how we got to that. And I spent my first year every Saturday coming on at 9 a.m. every Saturday at 9 a.m. And the Lord just blessed that the vendors and the business owners just kept coming and they kept coming. And every week for a year, every Saturday for an entire year, the Lord just blessed me. And I get emotional because now I'm only doing it one Saturday out of the month. And I'm thinking, Lord, how was I getting up every Saturday morning and featuring business owners and entrepreneurs who were doing big things? And I added that because when we think of small businesses, we think small. So I added to that small businesses who are doing big things. And so that's really the story of how that came about. And then I celebrated my first year and had the pleasure of meeting you through, I think, Dr. Carol. Was that correct?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Who Dr. Carol is a friend of my best friend.
Oh, wow. Isn't it something?
Yeah. And so that's how that. And so the first year was literally earrings, and I've had makeup artists and people who had jewelry and people who were authors and you name it, people who had signature mugs and every type of business. And I began to see how God was doing a work in women and men who he was using their gifts and talents. You know, when we were working a 9 to 5, we lean on that, but God has so many things inside of us. And I began to see, wow. And I just became very fascinated with every Saturday, all of these businesses were coming out of the woodwork. I'm old school, so out of the woodwork. And it's like, my God, look at all of this that we have to generate wealth and generate legacy for our families. And so it just blew my mind. So I have a love and a passion. And then the second year, God started diverting my attention to services where people were coming on with their credit businesses and a lot of services, if you will, and then ministry, if you will, such as yourself sharing about your book and what that book meant to you. And so he has just taken this platform just to a different level every year. And sometimes I just sit back and say, Lord, what is next? So for those of you who are listening, I hear in my spirit and I see the vision to really look at a studio. I'm talking to producers, videographers who, and having that whole, table and chairs and displays, and really fulfilling that
Yeah.
QVC dream that God has given me now through showing up at a conference during the time that we were all pivoting, because of of COVID. Yes.
Yes, yes. You shared so many wonderful things, and maybe some of you who are watching, the Lord is dealing with you now with some startup things, in
Yes.
terms of startup uh, business. And I'll just say this: sometimes what we need, we are the majority of the time, what we need, we have. Like your history had set you up for where God was taking you. In other words, He's not through, but you found that, oh, wow, I've had this experience, I've done that, the other. And we have to understand that a lot of times people are just looking for that place, and God will connect us to other people, just like He connected you and me, because this is a part of my passion. You know what I mean? This is a part of my passion, just as what you do is a part of your passion. And so I think we need to, it behooves us to look closely at where God has brought us from. You see what I'm saying? And not give up on that, not think your story doesn't matter, because your story matters, even the hard places, even the stumbling places, because those stumbling blocks that were put there, you've now, hopefully, you're learning then that you can use those as stepping stones, and you're going to go a different way and on a higher plane because of what God has allowed you to endure and go through. So that brings us to, I want to know what keeps you showing up. What
Oh
keeps you
my
showing up? Because it's a part of all that, right? I said that: stepping stones, stumbling blocks, ouch type of moments. But here we are. We're
Yeah,
still here. And you're
yes,
talking about expanding. You're talking about
absolutely,
studios, right?
absolutely,
I said
absolutely.
studios because, yeah,
Woo!
not just the studio, but we just believe God. So,
Yes.
what is it? What is it? What about this whole thing? Come on, keeps you showing up.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that, I'll say to your audience, because I did have a few notes here,
Okay, it's fine.
sometimes we are seers, sometimes we are feelers, we feel God's presence for what
Mm,
He wants to do in our life.
come on.
Sometimes we are seekers, we seek God. And sometimes we seek God for things and not seek Him. And in the last few, I had I don't want to say privilege, but the Lord blessed me to ordain me as a minister, through I believe God ministry a year ago in June. So July would have made a year. And, everybody was coming out the gate, being ordained, and they were going to do this and they were going to do this. And God immediately just shut me down in terms of just being still and spending a year just hearing from Him. And in that year, so many things happen. You get sick and this happened, and it just felt like one thing after the other. And God knew all of these things were, I mean, lost my dog, lost my laptop, got COVID, got bronchitis. I mean, it was just one thing after the other.
Yes.
And I thought the Lord was just going to like just sit me still to hear from Him so that I would be able to go out and be this minister. But He allowed all of these things to come my way. I started looking at my husband side-eyed and thinking, I don't want to even be in this marriage anymore. I mean, just real talk. And I have a beautiful husband, a wonderful husband, and there's no hidden agenda behind that. Just things happen. Life does life. And so it was a difficult year here just recently. And what keeps me showing up, because while God is allowing all of these things to happen, and there's growth that's taking place in my life, He's also showing me things and giving me visions. And He's also imparting in my spirit the next level of what a Hope and Company virtual marketplace will look like. I was on a platform, not a platform, I was scrolling through Facebook and I made a comment and I said something about Charlotte. And there was a producer from a well known producer from BET that I knew years ago. And he says, "Oh, you're in Charlotte?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "I'm in Charlotte too." And so he says, "We've got to connect and let me see how I can help you with your A Hope and Company virtual marketplace." He had no idea that I really wanted to take this to the next level. And it's someone that I knew. So God strategically places people that you're familiar with that you don't really
Yes.
almost have to vet people. This is
Yeah.
someone that I worked with for 10 or 15 years that I saw him in the studios. So I know what he's capable of doing. And he
Yeah.
says, "Oh, I have a production company. I live in the Still Creek area, which is an area here in the Charlotte area." And he says, "Me and my family moved here." So what keeps me showing up is that while I may seem to others and let me just interject this to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at what everybody else is doing. Keep your eye on what God is doing in your life.
That's good.
Don't look to the left nor to the right. Didn't he tell Joshua that? Don't look to the left or to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep your
Mm-hmm.
eye on what God is doing in your life, even if it seems like He's not doing anything for you, which we know He always is. But
Yes.
just keep your eye on what God has for your life and just watch the things that He'll do for you if it's your assignment,
Mm-hmm.
not her
Mm-hmm.
assignment, His assignment,
But
but what
yours.
the assignment and the purpose is for your life. I think you said at the very top of this. I loved it. You talked about the passion and the purpose,
Yeah.
how those two come together. And so I keep showing up because I know there's more inside of not just me, but there's more people that have to be exposed through my platform. That's why I show
Mm-hmm.
up. It's not about me. It's because I know there's more people that are going to launch through
Yes.
a Hope and Company virtual marketplace. And
Yes.
he's taken me to the next level to serve and do that for others. So
Yeah.
that's why I show up.
It's
Yes,
wonderful.
ma'am.
It's
Yeah, just as
wonderful.
simple as that. And
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun to do. And my co-host Paula Divers, who is actually my niece, who is a hygienist, a
Yeah.
graduate alum from Howard, have no clue about any of this stuff, but she's just so beautiful and so
She's great.
lovely. And I was just
Mhm.
able to partner with her, and she just, "Auntie, whatever you need, whatever you want me to do, whatever you." God puts the right people in your life
Yes,
at
he
the right
does.
time. If your heart is
Yes.
willing, open, and your hands are clean and your heart is pure, He will do
My,
it
my,
for you. Woo!
my. Wonderful. I'm not seeing any questions over here yet. Uh, but I really like the fact that um, God put in us what we would need before we were formed in our mother's womb.
Yes.
And that's something. That's why I always say pay attention to that passion that's on the inside of you, because in so many instances we have been dissuaded from those things. Like, well, there's no money in that. Why do you want
Yeah.
to do that? Or you know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm.
And so we need to be very cognizant of that. Even those who are parents, to be mindful of the gifts that continue to come forth in our
Mhm,
children, so that we can
mhm.
cultivate those for
Yes.
the kingdom, because I believe there's kingdom purpose, right, in all of us. So we want to make sure that our passion intersects with our God-given purpose. And when we say passion, it's not always something negative. When we talk about passion, it's not about something negative all the time or anything sexual, but just something that God has put in us that will not let us go, you know? And so I think that in these next few fleeting moments, 5 or 7 minutes, or if our audience starts talking to us more, it may be longer than that. But we do want to know, though, tell us what might be the benefit of people connecting with A Hope and Company, and make sure that you share how they can contact you. And as she gives the information on how to contact, if somebody can put that right there in the feed, that would be great. so that it's shared on with other people. So how can we benefit then from connecting with A Hope and Company? I've heard a lot of great things here, right? And then so how can
Yes.
people connect with you, contact you? Because there are some entrepreneurs on here. There's some small business owners that will come across this. I trust that. There are people who are inspired. They're in ministry, but they're like, okay, help me out. Tell me about some other steps, what I can do next. So what happened for you? So how can they benefit, first of all, from connecting with A Hope and Company? And then talk to us about how they can contact you, how they can connect with you.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the benefits is there is a minimal fee to be a part of A Hope and Company because it is a service, and I have given it away so much, and I just
Yeah.
have gotten to the point is just come on the show and share your product and services. And I was just amazed that you and I were talking the other day, and I was just sharing with you how I hear, oh yeah, I bought a hat from this one, or I brought some earrings from this. It's like, oh, I didn't even know you were even on the show that
Yeah.
day. And so one of the benefits is that you are exposed to a different audience. I do have a faithful audience. It's not thousands of people or anything like that yet.
Right.
But we do have a faithful audience where they do like to shop. They do like to tune in at 9 o'clock a.m. on a Saturday morning to see what A Hope and Company Virtual Marketplace is talking about, how is the service they can benefit from, or if there is, that retail therapy that they can get in without having to go to a store. And you have some people, Pastor, who are very intentional about wanting to support a Black owned business or small businesses. And
Yes.
so this is a platform that they come to, that if I can contribute by buying a pair of earrings or two, or buying that set, or buying that makeup, or purchasing that book, or I'm looking
Yes.
for a good book. So the benefit is that someone will always purchase something from someone on A Hope and Company Virtual Marketplace. For the owner, for the entrepreneur, you're guaranteed pretty much that someone will always either contact you so that you can expand your reach. Some people, if you have a service, they like to inquire. So I
Yeah.
want to get in touch with that person. I want to get my credit in order. Or I want to learn more about insurance, or I want to learn more about my will, trust, and power of attorney, or I want to learn more about how I can be an author. Just different things. So even if someone doesn't purchase your service or your product, you've just expand your reach. And I tell those who partner with me that even after the show, always go back and put in there, if you see someone says, oh, I like those earrings, then respond to that person, or befriend that person on Facebook. That's what the network, that's what the connection is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I've had a few of the vendors say, oh, that makes sense, and they've come back to say, I'm so glad you shared that with me,
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to talk to this person because I looked through the comments. Don't just come on the show, but look through the comments. And then when you see someone that had an interest in something that you were offering, connect with that person. I had one show, Pastor, where all of the vendors were buying from each other.
Yes. 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 That works too, right?
And I was just so tickled. They were all buying from each other because
Yeah.
you had 6 or 7 vendors or business owners who liked and admired what each other had, and understood the power in supporting one another.
There you go.
And sometimes you're just exchanging. Your earrings are $25, my mask were $25, and you just evened up. But then you just made a connection, and there's a networking that took. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the benefits of you may invest a minimal fee, but then you just added another customer to your roster, that you can now take it away from there. After A Hope and Company Virtual Marketplace, you can now be in touch with that person going forward. Is there anything else that I can assist you with? Do you need another pair of earrings, or have you looked on my site lately? I've updated. You can take it to the next level. So those are the benefits of, I would say, expanding your audience and your reach, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, this is an awesome networking opportunity for all. Deborah McFadden. Oh, that's so sweet. Yes, it is. And please reach out to me. You can always reach me at ahopeandco@gmail.com. The word and, ahope, my first initial to my name, HOPE, and co@gmail.com. And you can just simply say, hey, I'm interested in your virtual marketplace. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I've had a lot of people, I've had so many small businesses, from people who are organizers. I had Scholarship Mama on my platform, who was a financial aid for 25 or so years, who branched out. I tell you, the businesses that have unraveled over the last couple of years will blow your mind. And I'm just amazed that I've had the opportunity to feature and showcase all of these businesses. It's just unreal to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
love what I do, Pastor Leslie. I just sit here like, wow, how did you think of that? Have you ever seen something that was patent, something silly like, put your napkin in this or whatever, and you're thinking, why didn't I think to do that? And now
Yeah.
they're making millions of dollars and all that.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I feel when I'm on my platform. It's like, wow, how did you think of that? How did God gave that for you to do? And
That's right.
yeah, so
Right.
I'm
That's
just
right.
fascinated
Yes.
for God. So those are the benefits. It expands your reach, and also your network, and it just adds more customers to your roster through partnering with
Awesomeness.
us. Yeah,
Awesomeness.
absolutely.
Well, let's take a couple minutes here to talk about the fact that now this is no small thing. You're a three-time Amazon bestseller, right? An international Amazon bestseller. There we go. So, how can we purchase copies of your books? Holidays are approaching. Anytime is a good time to purchase your books. Anytime. People have
Absolutely.
birthdays all around the year. Just to be nice to somebody, get them a book. But first of all, tell us a little bit. We have a few minutes here of how you
Sure.
became a three-time Amazon bestseller, an international Amazon bestseller, and then we do want to know how to purchase your books.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for my copy of Pulling Off the Page. I was not going to let you get by with this. This is
That's not
coming.
your book. That's we want to purchase your
Thank you
book.
so much
Thank
for
you,
that.
though. Thank you.
Beautiful book. That was a book that you featured
Thank
on
you.
your on A Hope and Company last year for
Thank
our
you.
Black Friday. And thank you so much for my copy. I truly, and the
You're
kind
welcome.
words. I had to get that in. This is our conversation, so I can
All
share that.
right. Thank you. Thank you.
Give honor where honor is due. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. So I will put in the chat because,
Okay.
Pastor, I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. But I will go ahead and put this information in where they can go to my um, page and go to my bookstore and purchase any one of these books. This book here is Finding the Path to Victory, where I share my story wedged with 9 other authors, where after 40 years, I talk about me being a teenager, and a very riveting story. This is probably by far my best, right?
Okay.
A riveting story about my life, and a little bit of that I shared with you earlier, but it goes into detail, some really, really ups and downs, and just how
Okay.
God allowed me to find my path to victory. This here is a divine shift that I
I
wrote,
have that.
that I was a part of with Apostle
Yeah.
Juanita Corey Jackson. And, we all have those, what we say, church hurt stories, and how we, find ourselves from religion to a relationship with the Lord, and
Mm.
really, and so I share my story here about being in ministry, and doing all of these works, and then moving to Charlotte, and how hearing from the Lord and learning to trust him, even when it
Yes.
doesn't feel good, even when it doesn't sound right, even when it doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
even when you feel like there is deprivation through the
Mm-hmm.
decision that you made, that there's
Mm-hmm.
no funds coming in, this doesn't look the way I wanted it to look. But you know, that's how our relationship is established, through the divine ship, from religion to relationship.
Yes, I have
And
that one. That's
yeah,
good.
and then our recent book, anthology that I was a part of, again, the visionary author, Apostle Juanita Corey Jackson, The Exchange, My Will for His Power. I know you
Okay.
can't see it that good. I
There
have
we
a
go.
light here,
Mm-hmm.
but you will be able to see the books on the link that I will share with your audience, and just how we have to surrender to God, how we really have to allow Him. And again, I had the opportunity to share this with 7 or 8 other authors, mighty women of God, who share their story
Yeah.
as well, about how just surrendering to God, if we could just surrender to Him, if we
Hmm.
could just surrender to Him and exchange our will, what we see. I saw
Mhm.
myself on Connecticut Avenue in a corner office, doing very well, expensive lunches, um, you know, my circle of influence was pretty robust, household names. But God, really household names. I almost don't like to talk about it, because sometimes people may think that, he or she is being very braggadocious, but that wasn't God's will for my life. That was just a season in my life. That was a time in
Mhm.
my life. But when we have to really give all that up, my past apostle was just teaching about Lot's wife. And I shared that because we do look back sometime. I
Hmm.
do. I look back and I see myself with those fine clothes on, standing on Connecticut Avenue, and who I was. And I'm not the person now that I was then. And while that was a wonderful Angela, and I had the privilege of just being a part of some amazing things, from art shows to fine dinners, but I thank God for the woman of God that I am today,
Today.
because I
Mhm.
exchanged my will for his power in my life,
Oh,
and he's still working on me, I'm going, I'm here for it, as they say.
yes. Well,
So
listen, if you just tell them what the link is, somebody will put it in the chat.
it's
Somebody will put it.
actually my digital business card, and
Okay.
so I will put it in there. I will put it in the chat for them,
Okay.
in your chat for you. And I'm sorry I wasn't prepared for that, but I will put it in right now.
Okay. So I
Mm.
want you all to look out for that. I'm just going to see if they have any other comments. What do y'all have to say about today? Do y'all have anything to say about today you want to share with us before we get off here? Well, yes, praise Him. Aren't you glad that our dear sister Angela came by to share with us today? Just be encouraged. Be encouraged. We're here on fifth Saturdays at 1:30. On third and fourth Saturdays, we're here at 9:30 a.m. with guests, and we just appreciate every opportunity that we have, don't we? We appreciate every opportunity. So listen, I'm going to say thank you so very much for being with us. Those of you who catch this on the replay, we're aware that you may catch it on the replay, and we just thank you for listening, for tuning in. God bless you. Look, go ahead and do whatever it is that's in your heart to do. You're not too young. You're not too old. There's room for you. Look, there's room for all of us. There's enough ministry for all of us. Do you
Yes,
hear
it
me?
is. Yes.
All of us. Don't say, well, somebody's already doing that. Nobody can do it like you can. Otherwise, God wouldn't have called you. So we're just grateful. And listen, I want to thank you again, Angela, for being with me. What a blessing. What a blessing. So we
Yes.
want to take what we know, we want to pull it off the written pages of the word and begin to live this thing, right? We want to begin to live it. Thank you, everybody. I want you to have a wonderful afternoon. Be peaceful. Be peaceful. There's so much going on in our world today. Angela, we will talk. I hope you'll hang
Yes.
around a bit. Don't go just yet.
Thank you so much, Pastor Leslie. And
All
I'm just
right.
so glad that the Lord have allowed our paths to cross in
Me
this
too.
journey
I
we
really
call
am.
life, because I just love you, and I want you to know that. And I thank
Likewise.
God for you.
It's mutual. Let's pull it off the page. All right.
Yes.
All right. Bless you.